The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
LA, straight up.
Go out to LA. The new anthem.
Hey,
California Love Part 2. To live in LA. West side, west side, west side. To live and die in LA, where everybody try to fatten they pocket. So many hustle for the cash, so it's hard to knock it. Everybody got their own thing, currency chasing worldwide through the hard.
God bless you, community family, and thank you, Tupac, for bringing the right message for this show. God bless you, community family, and thank you for listening, if you do, and paying attention, if you do, because tonight we do look a little different. And actually what I'm doing, I've come full circle. This is the way we started back June 4th, 2009. The only difference is we were on radio. So there were no visuals. All you saw, all you heard were the voices of me and eventually the people that came and joined us along the way, as they found that this was a viable platform to discuss the kind of work that we were doing and who we were doing it with and how committed those street soldiers had become and how valuable they were to our community when it comes to the safety of our children. So tonight I'm repeating more or less how I started, and I was in that studio alone, trying to figure out what to say. And God just kept telling me, the Holy Spirit kept telling me, just keep talking. And bless our hostess's dad, Johnny Morris, who recently passed away. And, that's what she's been doing for the last 2 weeks, is taking care of her dad and his final arrangements. And so back in those days, her dad was an engineer at KTYM that would come in periodically and take care of the control boards like the chief engineer that he was and respected in the industry. And so it's become kind of like a family thing, and that now he was in our beginning and now we're here with his daughter, and we are so grateful for the opportunity to keep our message in the community that needs to hear it and among the people that really need to receive it the most. And, it's been our practice to thank our guests every week that take the time to come talk to us. But in the doing, I want you to understand how difficult last week's show was. If you didn't watch it, we not only had trouble broadcasting it, we had trouble discussing it, but trust and believe how grateful and touched I am that both Hannah Bell and Tevin Price's mothers came to talk to you last week. Hannah Bell, as many of you may remember her mother, Samantha Mays, came last week to talk about her 15-year-old daughter. And bless Tevin Pierce's mother, Tevin Price, mother, Jennifer Rivers, for coming to talk about her son. Samantha, 15, was killed at the hamburger stand. And Tevin, I believe Tevin was just in his early 20s. I'm not sure if he was 21 yet, but that happened a few years ago. And Tevin was killed on Crenshaw and Florence because of some red tennis shoes. So you may not remember all the details, but if you've been following this work, you remember that murder. And the difficulty was that these two mothers had their children murdered in front of them. Let me say that one more time. Their children were murdered in front of their mothers. And as if this work isn't hard enough, Imagine that was your child. That somebody had so much hate in them that they had no problem killing your baby in front of you. And it's those shooters, which are the reasons why we're here tonight, the reason we've been here since June 4, 2009. Let me tell you, that was not easy to start. This has not been easy to do. It certainly has not been easy to talk about. And what's even worse than all of that, it's been really, really hard trying to get the attention of our people. That's been the hardest part, trying to get your attention, get you to say that there's something wrong with this, that I need to pray about it, I need to protect my own children. I need to be involved right here on my block, maybe to protect the children my kids grew up with. See, I'm the evidence of people in the community that did that. I turned from cowering and hitting the floor like everybody else was doing, having my children hit the floor when that gunfire started, just like everybody else's neighborhood. But when the bullets came through the house, I was already angry because they were trying to kill the kids on my block. And I didn't know who they were. And I couldn't tell one from the other unless they were wearing the colors of their neighborhood. Imagine that. Imagine that. You don't know who your enemy is unless he's wearing your enemy's colors. If you take those colors off, we all look the same. So, I say that to try to open our eyes in a way that we have been in denial so much and fearful so much that our children have become anesthetized to the violence. They act like more war refugees than children of South Los Angeles. And so for that reason, and I have indicated that I'm moving from gang talk into something else. And these are the last 3 months that I will be occupying this seat. And I thought it was very important as I work to convince folks to join me. And to have the courage of two mothers, Jennifer and Samantha, come last week and try to open your eyes about the devastation. I'm on Facebook last night and I see a post from my friends that are already south of Gage on Vermont dealing with another shooting. And last night, is Wednesday, and Wednesday ceasefire meets faithfully in the Bethel AME Fellowship Hall every Wednesday from 6:30, at least 6:30, and try to bring a serious message to us as the Watch Gang Task Force meets in the fire station on Mondays at 10 o'clock, moved up out of the library because that little room in the library was so tiny they couldn't get enough people in there. Even standing room, it was still too crowded. But these are two organizations that, after I came from marching all around the city with grieving mothers, years before Hannah and Jennifer, years before marching with Vicki Lindsay and LaWanda Hawkins and Charlotte Austin Jordan, even Lorna Hawkins, the original mother I found in the late 80s, and her organization was Drive-By Agony, and Lorna was so troubled about it, she went to public cable access when your cable company had that kind of thing. Lorna was the first one I ever saw talking to victim families and trying to bring some sense out of this madness. And bless her heart, she'd already had one son forfeit his life. And what took Lorna out of the public access was a murder of her second son. And I just have to ask you, how many children, family, are we giving birth to and raising to have them stolen in this unholy war? You know, because believers know this is a spiritual warfare here. And the attack is on people of color. And we're seeing that, unfortunately, from the top down, like Vicki said, from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hood, where it all ain't good. And, you know, Vicki, excuse me, has been such an important part of this work because folks don't understand the trauma of the victim family. They don't understand that trauma. We're not responding to it. We're not even praying for them. And what's even worse, we have, on the most part, looked the other way. We haven't made the demands for arrests that we do when the police kill our families. We make the righteous, rightful demands. But in that shooting last night, my community south of Gage in Vermont, because they're all mine. I claim them all from Inglewood, San Pedro to Compton to the 10 freeway. They're all mine. And I travel these communities and still looking for you. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm still looking for you. And I have prayed without ceasing. Ask God to lead me, direct me, guide me, and more importantly, get me to that place He wants me to go that I really don't want to go to. Let me say it one more time. I don't know anybody that wants to run the murder other than intervention and law enforcement and the family of the victim. Even when we've asked you to come out, some of you, well, I'll pray for you. And trust me, we accept all of those prayers, all of them. The problem is, it's not enough of us paying attention to even think about praying for our children. And so that's why I'm here. So, God bless me in a strange way, because I'm a mother, a wife, a working person that ended up here by God's design. It wasn't mine. And the joke that I had as I argued with him about this, Lord, I don't know nothing about radio. I gave him all my list of can'ts. I can't do that. I don't know nothing about that. Father God, don't ask me. Lord, don't, I just can't. And 3 months later, I found myself over at KTYM with a 30-minute slot that was paid for by grace. And the first week that we were on the air, that I sat like this in that studio just by myself, trying to reach out to you, I had to compete with the Lakers playoffs against the Boston Celtics. So that's the way it was the first week of Gang Talk, June 4th. And I've said this before. Those were the first 2 weeks that we broadcast that 30 minutes. And the third week, June 25th, Michael Jackson died. Michael Jackson died our third week of broadcasting, and I left that studio and went right over to Leimert Park. And of course, it was filled. It was filled. And the same reaction we had April 21st when Prince died. We were here in the studio with Skip and George. I'm sorry, George, I forgot your last name, but George is a former law enforcement officer from the Watts community that was doing a radio show right behind us at the time. And we sat here in Morris Media Studio trying to figure out, well, what are we going to talk about today? Because nothing was on our mind except Prince's tragic passing. So, this effort has had its own personal sets of challenges from the world. But the one thing we did not do was give up our mission. And we're grateful. I posted a picture today of just a few of the hundreds that have come to talk to us, that have come and shared their story, that have discussed recovery from not only the gang violence, but the drug addiction and the money addiction to the lifestyle that corrupted them and almost stole them from us. And so, those are the kind of reality talks that we're accustomed to having in this now an hour, blessed to come from 30 minutes to an hour. So tonight is your chance to call us and say something. It's something I always wanted to do, but because we only had 30 minutes on radio, we really didn't have time for call-ins, but I actually set this time aside specifically for that purpose. So I took that risk to give you a chance to share your thoughts, to call us, share your solutions, to call us, discuss what you feel is the problem for us as a people. And to be fair about it, we have not dropped names, but we do have expectations from people that are in a position. And I'm just going to call out Chicago right now because Chicago has been in a crisis that nobody's been paying attention to except Chicago. And, I think about the first African-American president from Chicago and his beautiful wife. I think about Minister Louis Farrakhan in Chicago. I think about Oprah Winfrey, made her fortune in Chicago. I think about Jay-Z, who works the business in Chicago. So, all these folks, all these famous people are in Chicago. So people like me in Los Angeles are waiting to hear them come together, waiting to hear people like them address this in meaningful ways. And I was on Facebook because of that shooting last night on Vermont and commenting from people I haven't talked to yet. But they had the courage to express their opinion about this on a Facebook post. And I told them that tonight we'd be having a call-in where he could call and say the same things he wrote on Facebook. But bless his heart, he works, so he wasn't able to do that. He said he may be able to listen, but he couldn't actually do any calling in. So I just wanted to thank him because he's paying attention. Excuse me. That young man's paying attention. And he gave some responsibility, kind of spread it around. The music has not been very productive, hasn't been very positive, certainly hasn't been uplifting, and a contributor. Then he placed it at the feet of the parents who were engaged, that when their kids came along, it was already going on. You see, so he didn't just blame the kids. He didn't blame the kids. He blamed the whole scenario. And when you step back and look at it, you can see how our men have been criminalized. They've been criminalized. And it's all across the country. And so I'm going to give you that call-in number because I learned on the radio that I could talk for at least 30 minutes about this, but I was new and fresh, and that was so many years ago. And imagine 50 weeks each year And say that one more time. 50 weeks each year to come and talk about this with our community. So tonight is your chance to act like a community. Call us and tell us what you think. And the number here, if you don't see it on the screen, is 323-293-3375. That's local Los Angeles. 323-293-3375. So if you're watching, you have a comment, call me up. Don't make me talk for an hour about this by myself, because I don't want to test the process. And I feel like in all these years I've said so much, there really shouldn't be anything left for me to say. So tonight it's your turn. Let us hear from you. Call us and tell us something. Is this war even winnable? Excuse me. Got a little dry throat tonight being here by myself, but I've been through that before. And, you know, I haven't really had a lot of time to think about this, because nobody should think that this was something we expected to do in our childhood. Not Vicki Lindsay, not Lorna Hawkins, not Charlotte Jordan, not LaWanda Hawkins, not Cynthia Mendenhall. None of these ladies expected that they would grow up and have children and then turn into anti-gang and victim advocates. We just didn't see that in our childhood. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I had no idea it was going to be this. And I know my lady friends had no idea it was going to be this either. But, you know, thanks to their courage, well, you know, it's a combination, as Jennifer and Hannah showed you last week. It's an anger and a frustration that takes over that's inexplicable, because it's just consumed by sorrow. It's just consumed by sorrow. And when I started, the homicides in South Bureau were just too high. I just don't even want to tell you how high they were. But so many families were just being assaulted. It was a crisis. It really was a crisis. And I'm ashamed to say, you know, family, that being in the presence of murder more than once is what convinced me that I needed to do something. And I asked God, you know, very clear, because I needed him to be plain. I needed the Holy Spirit to be plain about this. Why did you show me this? Why am I here at the murder of this young man? That was just before Christmas in 97. I was still in training for this. I didn't even know that I'd be on the radio. No idea. No idea. But that young man, like so many at the time, bought a beer out of a corner store, like anybody else would buy a beer out of the corner store, only it wasn't a store from his neighborhood, and the local people challenged him about where he was and what he was doing there, and then chased him down the street until he turned that corner and they shot him in the head. And the truth is, he ran past my window with the shooter chasing behind him with a gun pointed at him. And because I was on the phone with my head down, I missed that. But I heard the gunfire because it was just that close. And at those days, there was a liquor store next door owned by an African-American man, and he had his son working the liquor store at night. And so when I heard the gunfire, my first reaction was, oh my God, they're robbing the liquor store. And I went, and I knew the family, I knew the father, I knew the son, and I went running out, which had become my behavior. I went from hiding to turning into a witness. Not a snitch, a witness. And, you know, my friends that trained me wanted me to understand the difference between a witness and a snitch, and I will explain that in a minute. But that night, I heard the gunfire. I ran out believing it was the owner's son, or they had somebody tried to rob him, and he was standing behind the counter looking at me like, what's going on? And just as I looked, they were on the corner. As I looked, this young man was laying out in the street, in the middle of the street, taking his last breath. Shot. Taking his last breath. And I leaned down to see if there was anything I could do to help him. And there wasn't. It was too late. The killer wanted to kill him. And he made sure he shot him in such a way that that boy was going to die. And I couldn't believe it. It's like, Lord, are you serious right now? Am I really looking at this? Am I really looking at this baby in the middle of this street, taking his last breath? And that's when I started screaming. I started screaming. I started cursing at the top of my lungs because that corner was controlled by the gang that killed that young man. It was controlled by the gang that killed that young man. And when I came to find out later, he was a neighbor and a friend to one of my best friend's kids. I found out that baby grew up with my best friend's son. And he was a twin. He was a twin. And you know, sometimes you have good twins. Well, you got twins. One of them's on the good side. The other one's on the little iffy. He was a good twin. He was a good twin. But because he bought that beer in that store, somebody decided he didn't deserve to drink it. And because he bought it in that store, he didn't deserve to go home. And it's murder, family, that got me to this microphone to come talk to you. The murder of our children. That young man was just 21. And that was just the week before Christmas. And I come back to tell you by 2010, it was okay to kill Cashmere James in front of her 3-year-old daughter, Christmas Day. Christmas Day. You have no idea how happy people like me were when South Bureau arrested them. I'll say you one more time. I celebrated when South Bureau captured the murderers of Cashmere James. Just like I celebrated when South Bureau, under a different leadership, captured the murderers of 5-year-old Aaron Shannon, killed in his Spider-Man suit, getting ready to go trick-or-treat on Halloween. I celebrated when they captured his murderers. You know why? because the community helped find them. I didn't do it. My associates didn't do it. The community of Herron Shannon got those killers out of their neighborhood. And I'm telling you that because they came together. It wasn't one person. It wasn't a snitch. It wasn't a witness. It was a community that said, oh, no. No, we're not having this. Okay, and I see it's 6:30. I'm still talking. The phone has not ringed. My engineer hasn't said anybody's rung this phone. And, you know, I've been out on this limb long enough to know what folks will and won't do. And Skip and I have discussed that it's our own apathy that allows murderers to go home, eat the food that somebody fixes for them that they probably didn't buy, sit down and watch a Laker game. Have a good night. Sleep. Maybe have some Hennessy in a blunt. And come out Friday and do it all over again. Come back Friday and do it all over again. So, we're waiting to hear from you. I know everybody at the ceasefire table, and they know me. I know everybody at the Watts Gang Task Force, and they know me. The question is, do you know any of them? It's not who do I know. Do you know? Do you care? Are you waiting until it's your child? Oh, really? See, because this is a national issue in the black community. And as we get on Kanye, rightfully so, for his ignorance, and we get on Bill Cosby because he stepped across the line and got himself jammed up, and now he's paying the price. If we can go after them, why can't we go after the shooters that won't let my kids get home from school? Y'all need to tell me something. Really, from 97 to 2005 to 2010, we've just been killing our kids, and it's been just okay. Just don't bother me with it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see you. No, I'm not wearing a ceasefire shirt. I'm not buying that from you. I'm not wearing a ceasefire bracelet. I'm not wearing a ceasefire cap where Jaime put "Let Me Live" so you could see it on the driver's side as he's driving down the street. You know, our community really needs to be flooded with that gear. You know, you celebrating Nike, and I'm not mad at Nike because I'm a Serena friend from Compton. When the Compton gangs protected her and her sister so they could learn how to play, all the way up to when she had that meltdown, and that's all anybody saw. Really. Serena has the tennis court meltdown, and everybody's all over her case. But how many shootings that have killed our children, and you screaming about that? Really, really. So, you know, I've had plenty of years to be angry about it. I've been angry. You know, that murder in 97 was not the last. It wasn't the last. No. My neighbor's son was killed. A lady that lived around the corner from us. Her son was killed. And he was killed in a double homicide. And you know, bless her heart, she and her mother sung in our choir in the church. How about that, Christian believers? Her and her mother sung in our choir. And her son was still murdered. And he was murdered with his friend. And the problem for that, they couldn't get any witnesses. They couldn't get any witnesses. That's what took so long to bring the murderers to trial, because there was 2 victims. They couldn't secure any witnesses. And you all want to complain to the police about what they're not doing? Really? We're complaining to law enforcement about what they're not doing? And truthfully, back in those days, we had a right, because there were so many homicides going on. It was their policy just to sit and wait and let the street handle it. We get the murderer of the victim when he gets to the morgue. And we let it go on like that. It's like, oh. A lot of anger, a lot of angry people, a lot of retaliation going on. People looking for somebody to hit back at. But ain't nobody going to tell the police who killed their child. Their friends are not going to tell the police who killed their friends. And they were standing right next to them when they was murdered. See, so we have a lot of silence, misdirected silence. Misdirected silence. And it's just something I haven't been able to do. It's not okay. It wasn't okay for people to come down my block trying to kill my neighbor's children. As I told the story last week, that young man, the one that dated our daughter, it's like, and you can't get out the car because you're in your enemy's territory. Go home, son. Go home. And I meant that. It's like, no. She could not go with him if his life was in danger like that. She could not go with him. And, bless her heart, all the friends that she lost from junior high school through her high school years, I didn't know how she was going to turn out. It's a miracle that she turned out okay at all. Do you ever think what impact this has on your children when their friends are killed? Do you talk to them about it? Do you discuss the violence with them? Do you discuss their safety? Do you discuss any goals? Because one of the saddest things I saw, God, and trust me, I've seen a lot of sad stuff. A young man killed at 15. And as he was described to me, quite frankly, he was in love with the lifestyle. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. He was in love with the lifestyle and just wanted to be a part of it, and it ended up costing him his life. And as I talked to his friends, the few that I could get to speak to me, they told me how this young man used to spend his free time planning his funeral. 15. Planning his funeral. What colors he wanted. What colors he wanted his bedding in his coffin to be. What flowers he wanted. What music he wanted played. So when I ask you to ask your kids if they have any goals, that's why I'm telling you to ask them. Find out. See, this poor child who was planning his funeral didn't have a family to ask him. He was one of the kids that's a trickle down from the conduct of his birth givers. So by the time he reached the age of sensibility, his birth givers were already taken out of his picture. Already taken out of his picture. So who is going to guide him? The OGs? Nobody told him he was living a trick. Not back in those days. But nowadays, the minute I work with, bless their hearts, and I have adopted them. I call them my sons, and you guys Well, I can't ask any more for them because they always fill these seats when I ask them to. But tonight, it's your turn. It's your turn. And as we joke about you on those corners in the summer trying to give you free water in the name of peace and spreading that message, and you all just drive by us and do this. And, you know, we have called out your church folks with your church clothes and your church hats on, and you drive by us on that corner in our ceasefire shirts trying to pass you a bottle of water, and you drive by like this. Or what's worse, you drive by like this. Because you don't want to see me standing outside your window over on this side of the car. You don't want to see me. So you turn your head all the way to the other side like you see something over there you'd rather be looking at. Like I'm standing in your window. I don't see you doing that. I don't see you. See, so what our thing is reality. We don't know what you're doing, but our thing is reality. And when I tell you that we stand on the corners with these grief-struck kids that are looking for you, I'm running out of things to say to them. See, because you're not here backing us up. And they only see us. They only see me. They only see the few folks that have the courage to come stand here. And you know what? We can't cover every dang block in this city. How about that? We cannot cover every dang block in this city. We don't have enough soldiers to go around like that. Because you're missing. You're missing. Not me. Not them. You. And you know what Vicky used to say all the time, because I love Vicky, bless her heart. We need some dedicated Vickies out here. But y'all don't have the strength to be her. You don't have the courage to be a Vicky Lindsay. You don't have the commitment to be a Vicky Lindsay, to come help these grieving families through this crisis. To share a kind word, to give a shoulder to cry on. To say some comfort to that grief. That's the honest work of what we do. So, we got a call. Well, caller, bless your heart. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hey, sister, this is Darnell out of Tuscaloosa by way of Detroit.
Hey, Darnell, man, I've been missing you.
Yeah, how you doing?
Happy to hear from you. You know, I was thinking about you today.
Yeah, I wanted to call and let you know I watched the episodes about when you was talking to the mothers.
Oh.
You did a month tribute to the mothers that children were slain.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I got a chance to look at that perspective. I don't think they never gonna get over it.
No.
From the look, it's sad. It's unfortunate, but
you know, and let me be real honest with you, honey. It's your voice that helps him get through this. Really. Because, no, they're not going to get over it. It's like Vicky said, we're not going to get over it, but if we can get through it, just get through it, one day at a time. And I want you to know, baby, you're the face in that darkness they're looking for. Do you understand that? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but it's hard doing stuff by yourself. I mean, it's like the love of them in the streets,
mm-hmm.
and it's everywhere you go, you just see hurt. You see more hurt than love. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't like to talk negative, but I don't know. I think I see it getting worse, or I don't see it getting no better.
Well, we have to keep hope alive, as Jesse Jackson used to say, and I'm sorry to say it that way. But, you know, as a people, the reality is all the things that we've been through before you were even born. That this is our success. Black folks are really going to leave it right here, that we're just not going to end this. You know, that's a threat against your safety and mine. It really is. And we cannot have that kind of ignorance, keep believing that it has a viable place in our village. You know, you're speaking life to what we as a people need to do for ourselves. That's really what you're saying. And what you're admitting is that you don't see us taking care of that business. That's really what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't, because it's to me, people following the wrong influence. And you get what I'm saying? And I don't see it changing, because the influence, the kids is generation after generation. I feel like in the future now, and in the future, that influence that's running now not going to stop. It's only going to get bigger through the machine, through what the TV putting out, and all the technology and social media, and all the images they putting out is full of that influence.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to the wrong thing, I don't know, and making people degrade each other and judge each other off something ignorant or something that ain't even worth really not liking each other.
And I really hate to throw him under this bus, but I'm going to throw him under this bus. We have the worst role model in the leadership of this country right now. Okay, and we cannot rely on him to be the leadership we as a people need. And the truth is, our best chance to get some of that left office. He left office. And we as a people couldn't agree just to accept him as potential. Accept him as potential. No, he's not the Messiah. No, he's not going to fix everything broken that's black. He can't do that. But just to see a black man accomplished in a 3-piece suit, beautiful chocolate wife, 2 beautiful daughters, speaking for this country on the world stage. I don't know anybody, and God knows I was here when Dr. King and Malcolm walked the earth, and I was so proud of both men. I was so excited about my future, and then to see when the Panthers picked up the guns, how the country worked against them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But sister, I got a question. Like you kind of remind me of Angela Davis.
Mm.
In the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, what happened to that influence where women wanted to be empowered, and for the men, like, empower the men, like, we need to do this, and what happened to that? I mean, it's few, but I'm talking about, what about the majority following that type of energy?
Crack. That's what happened. Crack. Right, I'm serious. We have to look at the timeline. Dr. King, Malcolm was killed in 65. Dr. King was killed in 68. The Panthers were annihilated by the 70s. That's when crack started showing up. And do you know that some of the leaders were addicted? They got addicted themselves. Okay? And so it was a deliberate effort to squash black men using the Constitution to carry guns. That was the biggest threat this country saw about them, that we use the Second Amendment, according to the Constitution, to arm ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's when our dynamics started to change. And the next thing we know, they're giving that drug free away in my neighborhood, giving it away at parties, just come on and try this kind of thing. And nobody understood Nobody understood at that time that it was an addictive poison. We didn't understand that. We thought it was just a party favor. You see, but when they addicted the leadership of the Panther Party, addicted the mothers of our community, addicted the men and had them not only distributing the poison, but now killing each other for the place to sell that poison.
So you saying this is like a karma effect, basically. You saying like that's where the hurt coming from is from through the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I could see that.
Mm-hmm. That's when everything started changing for us as a people. When that drug showed up, it was like a virus. That's what I tell people. It swept over the black neighborhood like a plague. Like a plague. And took so many people out that didn't know they were leaving. No idea. Yeah, think about it.
And it's unfortunate. And then most of the leaders are locked up because of that, behind the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the men the alpha men, most alpha men locked up.
Yeah.
And we just left full of beta men out here that ain't really making no change, ain't really influence or making no change towards nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And,
well, you know what? You're right. You're right on so many levels, and this is why we need the young the men that have been through this and seen that it was a big trick and that they were duped. We need them to say that. We need them to share that message with the next generation.
That's why I say it's a bunch of beta males out here. They not gonna speak on nothing. They just following what the women saying. You get what I'm saying? They not stepping up as men and being leaders. That strong rock. You get what I'm saying? Like that need to be. And it's just that's why I say it's through technology and all this other stuff and influences, it's like I say, it seems like it's getting worse because that's what they following. Like even if they see, they don't even know what they looking at when they looking at it.
You know what? Those are the times, because let me say, black folks don't have a corner on ignorance. Ignorance is coming in all colors now, and the dangerous element. I mean, we're seeing so much foolishness now. I've never seen it this crazy since Malcolm and Dr. King were here. These are crazy days right now, and the hate is just running amok. The only place where it is actually calming down is in our people. Really. Yeah. It may not.
I like what Skip and them doing, too, with the second call. I like the other guy. What's the other guy would be with Skip? I think his name John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seemed like they're doing John especially, though. I like him, too.
Mm-hmm.
I know he can change, you know what I'm saying, be able to, because he can relate.
Mm-hmm.
People can relate to him.
Yes.
You can tell he been through, you get what I'm saying? He seemed like a stand-up kind of guy.
Yeah.
And which is rare, but like I say, it's rare, though. And people joke around and they try to act like they for a cause, but if the real people can see through that, see if somebody's sincere or not about what they doing, and that's why the kids ain't paying attention, because most men ain't sincere about it. They not really studying the babies out here like that.
Well, you're right about that, but the truth is you got creeps in everything, even politics. It's not just an intervention, but the folks that I work with, Skip and John, these people are dedicated. They're dedicated. And the one thing about this work, those that are not sincere will leave soon enough. They'll leave. When they find out they're not going to be entertained, and nobody's going to fill their pockets with money on a lie, then they're gone soon enough. And what we have left are the dedicated. And so I stay with the dedicated. We're just trying to get other people to see that they need, if they don't join us physically, at least connect spiritually about this.
Exactly, and that's what you said, the right thing. That's what people got to understand. Entertainment and this real life purpose stuff that y'all got going is not even close.
Mm-hmm.
It's two separate. Entertainment is good for what it's good for, but it has nothing to do with real life.
Well, you know, rap kind of came because of the circumstances, and I understand that I didn't really condone a lot of stuff that was going on, but as they said about it, in defense of it, it's a reflection of what we were living. And I agree with that. We've been traumatized by this crack plague, traumatized and devastated and put to war against each other over false money. False money. People thought, oh, I'm going to get rich. No, you're not.
Right, because then now you got to do anything to get it. You got to hurt people.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying, through selling drugs,
Yes.
through selling people dreams and lying to people, being deceitful and all that type of stuff. All that is no moral behind that.
Well, you know what? And the big joke in all of that, you're just showing law enforcement how easy you're going to be to take out of society because you got no proof of income. You're wearing that bling, you're driving that bad car, but you ain't got no proof of income. And I can't tell you how many young people that I know personally got picked up because they was riding around the city in the middle of the day in that $20,000 car. Back in those days, that was a big ride. You in South L.A. at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, driving in a $20,000 car. Let me pull you over and see a paycheck.
Yeah.
And it just got that simple. It just got that simple, really. And the money drove us crazy. Okay, let me just blame the money. We lost our minds. We lost our character. We lost our love for each other. It became a competition, and our children paid the price for all that.
Yeah, and it's kind of systematic too because they put us out here and they know we don't want to work for pennies. So most of us we forced to really sell drugs to be able to make a living, and now we get caught. Now we got a record.
Yeah.
Now we can't get back into the system.
If
we do, it's hard labor.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
most of us don't want to do hard labor, so we just resort back to the same thing. Go back to the street.
See, the first thing is accepting that you were forced to sell drugs. No, you weren't. You were not forced. Unless a big OG put a gun to your head, you were not forced. It was a choice we made. We have to be honest about this. Our young men, because they're spoiled right now. If they can't make that money that they used to make selling crack, they don't want to work. And that's the worst excuse you could give yourself because it's a lie. That crack money was poison. You got money for spreading poison. That means your money is poison too. And what the end of that is, you don't get to keep that. So here comes the forfeiture. Those folks that was riding around in those $20,000 cars at 1 in the afternoon, the court took it. Your gold chain, your attorney took that. Your ring, restitution took that.
And the family suffered.
There it is.
Right.
Well, you know what, honey? I really appreciate you calling me because, bless your heart, I know you're paying attention. I know my friends are paying attention, and you're in Detroit, and we're trying to send a message to Detroit and Chicago and Philadelphia and wherever we're having problems like this, even Ferguson.
Right, yeah, as long as if we can get 10,000, if we can just reach out to 10,000 people, it'll be worth it. A while, just keep it going and keep it pushing and keep it moving and staying positive and keep doing the works.
Your generation's going to make that happen. I'm serious. Your generation's going to make that happen because I see you looking for something else. I see you looking for something else. And people like me are going to make sure that you see that light at the end of this tunnel. We really want.
Y'all definitely is. Y'all help me out to keep it, to see if there's more people like-minded, like I think, and through the airwaves. You know what I'm saying? There's few people on airwaves. There's, like I say, most people just talk about entertainment. They don't talk about real topics like y'all do, like, and bring people on and with the and talk about it. like you say, people might not get over it, but we can get through it and
Right.
pushing towards the positive and teach the youngins and give them some hope.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You know what? We have to find the value in our sons and put that mark on them. Not the mark of death, the mark of value. You know, our kids been walking around with a death sign all over them for too long, and too many of us aren't paying attention. We're not looking at their faces. We're looking at their sagging pants and their possibly dirty underwear that they're showing, you know. But that's a sign, you know. Sagging is a sign. It's a message of anger, and we need to stop playing with that. Look, baby, you done helped me get through this hour. And by the clock, it looks like I'm out of time. I think I am. Yes,
Okay.
I am. But God bless you, honey. And thank you so much for calling. And, you know, you call me back before I leave here.
All right. Thanks, sister. And what's my tell Skip? He a knucklehead.
I will, because, you know, Skip got married a couple of weeks ago.
He did it.
Yes, he did. I'll tell you about that next time. But thank you, honey, for calling. Family, we're out of time. Thank you, sweetheart. We're out of time already. And, yeah, I proved I can talk for an hour, so don't make me do this anymore. But we'll be...
Sister, I'll call back another time.
All right, sweetie. I love you.
All right, love you too.
All right, honey. Well, God bless your community family. I hope you appreciate our caller because I love that young man, and he's one that I'm collecting. So if you know any young men that want to come and sit with us and tell us the glory and hope that they have for themselves, send them my way. Send them my way. So God bless you. Thank you for listening. And Gang Talk will be back next week.